That's a good trick.
Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. Today I have something very, very unique for you. It's actually pretty shocking news, so if you're standing up, I don't know why you'd be standing up, but if you are standing up, take a seat, brace yourselves. Are you ready for this? I, Metal Gear Mando, the most metal of all Mandos, am excited for a Star Wars game from Electronic Arts.
What the fuck?
Okay, to be fair, I'm warily excited about it, but excited nonetheless. I've been feeling very negative lately, and I need to talk about something positive, and this gave me a little glimmer. It just gave me a little boost. So I want to share that with all of you. Growing up, I loved the Rogue Squadron games. Countless hours were spent hoarding the GameCube in my room, playing through the Battle of Endor, taking down Imperial Star Destroyers, and making my way into the Death Star 2 alongside the Millennium Falcon, not piloted by Rey, and destroying the Disco Ball of Doom and Emperor Palpatine once and for all. Once and for all. I said once and for all. In 2020, all these years later, EA may be offering us a chance to relive those fond memories, such as the ones that I just described for you, with their new game, Star Wars Squadron. Let's take a look at what this game has to offer with the reveal trailer, but before I do that, I want to take a minute to talk about the channel. If you want to skip this, I'll leave a timestamp, but stick around, I would really appreciate it. So I've been thinking about the channel and its recent growth, and I would love a way to bring you guys and gals more content and be able to interact with you more. You can always find me on Twitter at Metal Gear Mando, which I'm sure you've heard me at nauseam mention, but Twitter at Metal Gear Mando, or on Discord. But I was thinking about streaming once or twice a week. Now, I'm still debating about streaming in general, as well as what platform I'll be on, because it's kind of like choosing between two garbage companies. You have Garbage Company Red and Garbage Company Purple, but right now I'm leaning more towards YouTube. Fuck. If me streaming is something that you would be interested in, please let me know down in the comments below. I've also had a few people reach out to me saying that they've been unsubbed from this channel. Thanks a lot, YouTube. So please double check. If you are unsubbed, resub. And if you're not subbed yet, what the hell is wrong with you? Why are you even here? Sub to my channel. No, I'm just kidding. Watch this video, watch my other videos, and if it's something that you want to stick around for and is something worth subscribing to, hit the subscribe button, as it really does help me out. Alright, now that that's out of the way, on to the video. Star Wars Squadron is a 5v5 squad-based first-person starfighter experience. This game will only be in first person, which is kind of a bummer, though it does make sense for the way they're designing the game. I mean, they're going for an immersive fighter pilot experience, and it's even going to have full VR support, which is pretty sweet. I'm just waiting for my Valve Index to finally ship. It has been forever, but I'm waiting. The game is set a few years after Return of the Jedi, so the fall of the Empire is well set in motion. And we're gonna see a few familiar faces from other Star Wars Expanded Universe material. I mean, there's somebody from a novel Alphabet Squadron will be there, so yay for that, I guess. I mean, God, Alphabet Squadron is such a stupid name. Like, I know Disney is really all about the LGBTQ plus representation, but Alphabet Squad, come on. Hera from Rebels will also be making an appearance, which is nice to see because I'm somebody that likes Hera. I think she's pretty cool. One of the only good things that came out of Rebels. I mean, seriously, any show that wastes Grand Admiral Thrawn like Rebels did doesn't deserve any respect. Now, this time period also opens up the game to the possibility of having tie-ins to The Mandalorian. I don't think there's a high likelihood of this, but seeing as how most reports for Season 2 of The Mandalorian are saying that Sabine's going to be there, Ahsoka's going to be there, and Rex, I mean, they're all just getting crammed into this show, so I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility. I have to say though, I'm incredibly happy that this game is set during the Galactic Civil War. This isn't to say that I wouldn't like to see more time periods explored in the Star Wars universe, because I think when Disney does that, it's less chance for them to fuck up the already established films. It's keeping it safe out of Disney's wretched claws. But getting to be an X-Wing pilot or a Y-Wing pilot in first person in VR just sounds like an incredible experience and something that I can't wait to try out. This game will have a single-player story that has you taking control of pilots on both sides of the Galactic Civil War. You have the Rebels, which is Vanguard Squadron, and you have the Imperials, which is Titan Squadron. Players will start the game in single-player mode, and from what it sounds like, you won't be able to play multiplayer until you've used all the different ship class types during the single-player campaign. It sounds like EA is trying to protect the multiplayer experience, which has been described as heavily tactics-based and team-focused. I'm not too sure how I feel about this news and really what it means for the single-player experience. Something is telling me that it's not going to be a very deep single-player. It seems like the single-player is being used to just teach new players the basics of the game, a la Rainbow Six Siege. Some of the cutscenes from the trailers show off that the single-player has an attempt to make it out to be more than filler, which I really hope is the case. I would like a Star Wars game that has a solid story. I just don't think that this is going to be it. I, like many others, have been craving a game where you can play as the Imperials, and no, don't you fucking dare bring up Battlefront 2's pathetic campaign. I mean, you spend 2 minutes as an Imperial, and then all of a sudden, you realize, oh, Empire bad, Rebel good? You mean the genocidal, xenophobic fascists are the bad guys? Anyway, I'm not going into this game with high hopes for the single-player experience. My excitement comes from the multiplayer aspect. Planning, tactics, and squad play are talked about multiple times throughout this trailer, which leads me to think that these developers are going for a more competitive Rainbow Six Siege style of game. And I know I keep bringing up Rainbow Six, but it's really kind of the vibe that I'm getting when I hear people talk about this game. Obviously, I could be wrong, but you don't normally hear developers put such an emphasis on team play and tactics unless strong communication and coordination are integral to the success of the game. Squadron will also feature a Starship class system that are going to have the following ships. You have the Fighter. The Fighter is your standard jack of all trades but master of none sort of ship. I think that's kind of to be expected. The other ships, however, is where things become a little more specialized. You have the Interceptor. On the Rebel side, you have the A-Wing, and on the Imperial side, you have the TIE Interceptor. These are going to be your nimble, fast hitters. Get in and get out. You know what I'm saying, fellas? I would expect these ships to have very little in terms of shielding, as that would be the trade-off. I mean, you have blinding speed and the ability to strike incredibly fast, and then bolt. But on the flip side, you're probably going to be a lot more vulnerable to oncoming fire. Next up, we have the Support class, which features the U-Wing for the Rebels and the badass TIE Reaper for the Imperials. It was said in the trailer that these ships will be used for disrupting enemy ships as well as supporting your teammates. Now, I can understand disrupting the enemy ships with like radar scanners or perhaps ion torpedoes to knock down shields, but I'm curious to see if there's going to be any way in which to bolster your allies' ships, like their shields, or perhaps even repair them somehow. Maybe you send out a little droid, I don't know. Last but certainly not least, we have the bombers. The Imperials get the TIE Bomber, and the Rebels get the motherfucking Y-Wing. I love bombers. I just think they're badass, and I love the Y-Wing. It's probably one of my favorite Star Wars ships. So the trade-off with these bombers is they're incredibly big, heavy hitters, but they're probably going to be much slower and offer a lot less in terms of maneuverability. But again, these things are meant to get in there and do massive amounts of damage.
That's a lot of damage!
Now, I like this emphasis on different classes of ships. I think that it stresses the differences between the crafts, and it's going to make them feel like individual ships rather than just a nice cosmetic difference. So speaking of ships and the Rebel and Imperial pilots, what about customization? Now, I know what you're thinking. This is EA that we're talking about. What do the loot boxes look like? What do the microtransactions look like? What kind of special loot crate do I need to buy in order to make my X-Wing's paint job match the Slave One? How can I put sexy Padme on the side of my U-Wing? Well, shockingly, it's been announced that Star Wars Squadron will not feature loot boxes, and all items are earned in-game by playing. Now, I have to say, the fact that I'm surprised by this news, or that it's even considered news at all, is a sad representation of how borked the current state of gaming is, but it remains good news nonetheless. Now, on top of this, Star Wars Squadron is not a live service game, which is even more mind-blowing seeing as how these things, live service games, microtransactions, and loot boxes, EA has been telling us that these are integral to games in order for them to be able to maintain them, to make sure that they are a good game worthy of their customers, yet here we are. We have a game with no loot boxes, no microtransactions. I mean, hell, Jedi Fallen Order, we didn't get any of that either, and that was a great game, so I think we'll be fine. So, what kind of customization can we expect for our pilots? It was shown in the trailer that we get to choose our species, gender, and flight suits, which is pretty cool. I do have some gripes, but I'll get into those towards the end of the video. The customization extends to the ships as well, with different paint jobs, charms, and bobbleheads that can be placed inside the cockpit. I think it's going to be a little weird being in a TIE fighter and seeing that TIE pilot has a little chibi Darth Vader keychain hanging from the rear view mirror, but hey, to each their own, I guess. I'm really hoping that the Imperials stick with a more utilitarian look to most of their ships. I don't want these wild cosmetics for them. I would like them to match their faction. The Rebels can get a little more crazy because, I mean, hey, they're Rebels, right? But the customization goes further than cosmetics, at least when it comes to your ship. We were shown over 50 components that can be added to utility slots on the ships, and that's going to change the way that your ship handles while you're flying and while you're in combat. Now, this should hopefully add some depth to all of the ships, especially if we're limited to just the 8 ships that were shown off in this trailer. Now, here's a look inside the cockpit of one of the ships with some labels that tells us what all of these different kinds of instruments are used for. We have the sensor, which is going to act as your radar. Then you have the component slots, which is where those customizable options are going to be placed. Then we have laser charge, which I believe we saw in the trailer as well. I could be wrong on this one. The ship indicator, which is your health and shield status. And of course, we have the combat display, which should be instantly recognizable to all Star Wars fans. Then of course, we have the throttle, which it makes you go. It's the throttle. Power management. Now this is the interesting one. It's going to have pilots juggling power consumption for thrusters, weapons, and shields. Now I love mini resource management in games like this. It just adds that little bit of a skill ceiling. It's like, are you going to put more energy on your rear deflectors while you're getting tailed? Meanwhile, you're chasing down the objective ship that needs to get destroyed. Or are you going to go full kamikaze and say, fuck the shields, full power to the weapons? Those are the kind of choices that I like making, especially in the heat of battle. It makes it fun. So far, we've seen 2 game modes. The first one being called Dogfight, which is a pretty straightforward team deathmatch. It was mentioned in the trailer that you can use mines and tractor beams to fight your foes with, so hopefully that will spice up this somewhat run-of-the-mill game mode. Most of this section, however, was dedicated to the premier game mode for Squadron, which is called Fleet Battles. Now this is sadly still a 5v5 game mode. I feel like this was a big wasted opportunity. You could have had this Battlefield-esque 32v32 mode. At the same time, I understand they're going for a squad-based game, something that is more tight-knit. So I'll just have to deal with it. It's just not my personal preference. Of course, I'll be able to have a more informed opinion of this when I actually get my hands on the game. So Fleet Battles will be a multi-phase mode, similar to what we saw with Supremacy in Battlefront 2. The first phase will be win a dogfight. Then you'll be moving on to attack the enemy's capital ships, and then the third and final phase will be you taking down your enemy's flagship after crippling its defenses. I imagine we'll see more from these game modes as we approach the launch of the game later in the fall, but I like the idea of fleet battles. I really hope we can damage the shields of like the hangar bay and destroy some fighters. Maybe that will slow down the spawning of the players or perhaps spawning of the NPC crafts. There's certainly a lot that can be done with this game mode, and I hope that they're going to maximize it to its full potential because there's a lot to live up to there. Overall, I'm excited for this game. However, there are some things that concern me, and I'm going to start with something that's very subjective. It's the cosmetics. The game looks very arcadey. I don't know if it's the oversaturation and just how bright and colorful everything is. It doesn't look right to me. I prefer the look of Battlefront 2. It's made in the same engine, but there's just something about this that doesn't look right. And speaking about not looking right, the character models look so bad. Like in some of the cutscenes, they look okay, but look at the aliens. What the fuck is this? Is that supposed to look like Nienub? That looks nothing like his species. There are more pressing things that concern me. I get it, it's early and they can fix those models, but I visited the store page and I was surprised to see this game is selling for only $40. And I'm not saying that I want more expensive games. However, this low price point, coupled with the release date that is only 3 months away, leads me to believe that this game is going to be lacking content. Not to mention, as I already stated in this video, there's no loot boxes and it's not a live service. So I'm left to question just how much support this game is going to be receiving long term. I don't recommend running off to pre-order this game. I don't really recommend pre-ordering games in general, really. But from what I've seen so far, it certainly has my attention. So, Star Wars Squadron. What do you folks think? Is it a game that is interesting to you? Do you share some of my excitement or perhaps some of my concerns? Let me know down in the comments below. Don't forget to tell me if you'd be interested in me live streaming once or twice a week. I have no idea what I'd be streaming. Hell, maybe I'll stream Star Wars Squadron, who knows. As always, thank you so much for watching. Follow me on Twitter at Metal Gear Mando, and until next time, stay safe, and I will see you in the next video.